Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Big Sky Hobby Corner. I'm back just like I promised. Been a little busy here around the workshop, so got that caught up. And like I said, today we're going to hinge a control surface. That way I can show you what I look for on pin hinges. Now, unlike CA hinges, you're going to want to use epoxy on these and a little bit of oil. The oil is to, I forgot to grab that, lubricate the hinge, and it also keeps the epoxy from making the hinge where it doesn't flex. Okay, and you can do this with just about anything. You can Vaseline preferably. I don't have any. I've got a cheap WD-40 I picked up at the old Walmart. So that's the first thing we want to do. We want to treat our hinges. That way they're done. And all I do is right here where that pin is, just a little dab of oil in that area only. Okay, just go ahead and hit all your hinges with that. The reason why you got to be real particular, see, there's just enough runoff on that to make that happen. Wherever that oil is, epoxy won't stick. So you want to kind of be careful if you want to tape it up. That's the reason if you use Vaseline, it's a little easier to control what goes on. And for this one particular surface, I need 5 hinges, so that's all I'm going to lube up right here. And we'll be good. You can kind of work them, get the oil to go through, and that'll be fine. If you want, you can get a paper towel, and I think I'm going to do that. Get a paper towel and just kind of wipe off any kind of excess. We get done here, I'll show you what Ryan's got done on his DR1 from Balsa USA. And they got a lot of really cool kits. If you have never been to Balsa USA, go to balsausa.com. I know Joe, he is the kit cutter. He's got a lot of really cool build videos on their kits. Just a really neat guy, really neat company, and they're cut right there in USA, Michigan. Right here in the USA. It's been a very entertaining day. I'm not going to talk about the things that are in works because I don't want to jinx it. However, if this plays through, we're going to build a whole lot nicer stuff on the show. We'll be able to get nicer airplane stuff, per se, if this works out. So, like I say, the Smokinoki business is what pays this bill, and at this point things are really looking up, so I'm just hoping this will work. Alright, we are at the point. I just got a mixing cup here, 30-minute epoxy, and remember from the video a long time ago, 50-50 mixture. What I do, I count the drops. And that was actually one of the contests that I had, and that's how do I mix my epoxy. So that was 12 drops of resin. I'm going to add 12 drops of hardener. And I kind of had to preheat this stuff up because it was cold. Counted all the way to 12, and I didn't have to take my shoes off. I'm getting better at this. Alright, now we're going to be limited on time allowed to work because it's epoxy, and once the catalyst reaction starts, there's no going back. So we'll get this mixed up, and what we're going to do, we're going to put a little dab of this on a hinge on one side, then we're going to insert them into the aileron, not the wing, but the aileron. Do that first. Okay, so I will do that right away. Get a hinge. What I do when I do this, I just put it on the end, because what happens, it spreads throughout the hole. And it doesn't matter if you start on the inboard and work outboard, or outboard and work inboard. It doesn't really matter. Just get them all in and make sure they're oriented the right way. Okay, see how that's not straight up and down? Make it straight up and down. Okay, that's what you want to see. Now another thing, you want to sink that sucker all the way down to the pin. Okay, like that, all the way down to the pin. And we're going to do the same thing in the wing. So let me get all the rest of these sunk. Yeah, I know, kind of boring watching me do all this, but trust me, famous last words of a fool. Trust me. Sink it, make sure we're perpendicular, finger off the excess. Perfect. Just a little dab on the end. Insert the hinge. And kind of give it a little rotation if you feel like, to spread the epoxy around. Correct orientation. These hinges really blend in with this table, and I've lost one before. I lost one once a bunch of times. And insert. Correct orientation. I always leave them bent down, that way at a quick reference I can see if I bumped one, knocked it off or something. And there we go. That was probably a little much. Nobody calls me all day, and right when I decide to shoot, they decide to do so. Of course, that very well may be the deal I'm working on. And what I'm doing, I'm pressing this aileron down on a surface to make sure those pins are seated. Like that. Okay, that looks really good. So now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to put a dab of glue on the end of each one of these, all at the same time. And then where our aileron control horn goes in, I'm going to fill that hole with some epoxy and down a little bit through that groove that we cut out. That way, that also grabs a hold really well. And before it dries, it also acts as kind of like a lubricant, if you will. I'm going to put a little on the aileron horn as well. In our next video, we're going to put the servos in the fuselage. Alright, let's glue the rest of them, because that would really suck. Try to be careful not to string any all over your hard work. And Ryan, unfortunately, has kind of gotten shy and really doesn't want to do the servo part, but I think I can twist his arm into being in on the linkages, because he's going to have to really learn the right way to do this so he can set up his DR1. Always start at your control horn. That's what I do. Just kind of go down the line, working it down, guiding your pins into each hole. Okay? Good. Just like that. And just kind of ease her down. And then when you get to the heel of the pin, you're going to take that, take a little pressure, firm but gentle. And push it in. Close that gap as much as you can. And if you do wind up, if it does recess and you do wind up with a little gap, you can seal it. You can come back with a little fabric or even your tape, for your seam tape, pinking tape, and come in on the bottom side and seal your gap to prevent flutter, control surface flutter. Control surface flutter is very bad. That's where the air gets in between your control surface and the hinge point, and it does this kind of weird wavy thing, and it actually vibrates your control surface, and believe me, you can hear it. I've heard it before. It just, and eventually what will happen is it'll shake your airplane apart. You don't want to do that. So make sure that, yeah. Oh, that was my daughter. She is playing in Libby, and I asked her what time they were playing, and evidently they were playing when I text her. She goes, "Oh, sorry, we already did." So I'll get back with her in a little bit. And just so you know, Libby is a 3-hour drive from here, so it's going to be 1 o'clock in the morning before she gets home. All right, now, so I mean, for a 4-star, that's not bad at all. These are, I mean, you can race these airplanes, but it's not like the Viper that we're going to finish up. So that is how you pin your control surfaces. Do the same technique on every single one of them, and you'll be fine. The important thing is, remember, close that gap as much as you can, and everything will be all right. So I'll show you what Ryan's done on his DR1 so far. Just change this out here. Alright. So this is the stage where he's at. We're looking at the fuselage upside down. He built it. Okay. That's all him. You got the firewall up. We got the wings sitting on there. And he's getting kind of nervous because it's time to drill the wing mounting bolts. We got to get it on there perfect. And he's a little nervous about that, but we'll get it. He's kind of been avoiding it because of that, but he'll get it. And also, our buddy Brian Lipinski in Washington sent him the power supply. One of these here, Extreme Focus. Yeah. Well, it's an Extreme Flight Torque Revolution 4016T. It's a 52 power motor. And the ESC is the Airboss 80 amp ESC. Now, understand, I'm not an electric guy, but that ought to fly this airplane well, and might actually even make it hover. So that's pretty much it for this episode. I'm going to finish pinning the control surfaces, and when that's done, we'll release another video on servo installation in the fuselage and why it's important to stagger them a certain way, because it is possible to have a collision between servo arms. It doesn't happen that often, but it can happen, and that's something we want to avoid. So we'll see you next time. Thanks again for watching.